Video we are going to look at two models that I have created to assist legal teams review contracts and review KYC documents. This whole workflow was meant to be zero cost and limited to the Google ecosystem, which means that we have used only Gemini as a model, and we have used Google Sheets, and we have used other Google products to ensure that we are limited to this ecosystem, which also means that this is zero cost. So the first thing that we need to discuss is the current workflow. What happens today, and what are we trying to do with this workflow? So what happens today is that uh, in your inbox, if your legal team's inbox, you are going to receive these documents. You are going to receive contracts. You are going to receive KYC documents. Somebody has to go in and read that particular document, understand the level of risk involved in that contract, then identify the clauses which are risky, and send it to someone else to review or modify it. That is first pass review. What we are trying to do is we are trying to create two models, contract reviewer and KYC reviewer, which will automate this process, which will help categorize documents based on the risk level. It will use the standard clauses that a company generally uses, and it will use language which helps us identify risky clauses. It will help us analyze parties which are high risk, locations, jurisdiction which is high risk, and accordingly it will classify. So what this does is that you no longer need someone to look at the inbox every time, go and download this and read the document. It will create a loop where Gemini is reading these documents. It is giving an output which is being shared with the team, and then someone can just go ahead and auto approve it or send it to someone who needs to look at it, the senior counsel or somebody else responsible for ensuring that the contracts are fair. And looking at the model, the first thing that we need to look at is the contract reviewer assistant. So this is Google AI Studio. Here we have used the Gemini 3.1 Flash Lite. This is the most cost efficient model. You select your model, then you give it instructions. This is the prompt. You give it a persona, you tell it what to do, you mention the risk scoring, and you mention that we do not need any legal advice. You do not summarize, you output JSON only. So what this does is it limits the scope for hallucination. It increases the accuracy of a result. Then we have extraction rule. This also guides the model into giving us something which is usable. It will never say that it has found something which does not exist, which helps us understand the gaps in the documents. The next is the rubric score. So it's 1 to 5. 1 means auto approve, 5 means highly risky. Based on the clauses that are mentioned in the contract and the party and the geolocation, it will identify whether something falls on 1 or 5, or between 1 or 5. Once that is done, it will output that in JSON format. How does that look like? So you go to structured outputs, you give it a format like this. You identify all the fields that you want the model to identify in the document and output that data. So this will identify everything and basically output that, and based on that data it's going to classify something as high risk or low risk. This was the contract reviewer assistant. The next one is the KYC reviewer. So this is also on Gemini 3.1 Flash Lite. It also has its own system instructions, and the prompt, it's giving it a persona, it's telling it what to do, it's basically guiding it not to hallucinate. It has its own extraction rules and a risk score. Here also we have a JSON output format to ensure that we are able to guide the model into giving us what we need, and ensuring that it's guided by the standards that we have in our company. So you can modify these and you can ensure that you're getting what you want based on your standard workflow. This is just an example, but you can modify it based on how you want to do it. So these are the two models. So in our case, when you receive a document in your target inbox, our system, which is created using Google's Gemini and an extension called apps script. So we gave it instruction. App script has a bunch of instructions here. So this is how it looks like. We have connected this to the Google Sheet. We have connected it to Gemini, and what it does is basically it has the system prompt that we had created for the contract reviewer assistant and the KYC reviewer assistant. It has the JSON format, so it helps the model understand what we need, because it's stateless, so it does not store that. We share it via this API call, and this app script runs every 5 minutes in our case. You can create a trigger if you want to modify it. You can run it daily, you can run it by the minute, you can run it monthly or weekly, depending on your requirement. So this app script is going to check your inbox, and once it finds a document, it is going to categorize it as a contract or as a KYC. A KYC is identified via the subject line. Anything else is considered a contract. So it's going to identify the type of document, it's going to download that document, it's going to share that document with Gemini, and it's also going to share the JSON format that we expect the data in. So the next step is that Gemini is going to analyze that contract based on the prompt that we had given it and the instructions we had and the JSON format that we expect. Once Gemini is done analyzing that document, it takes a couple of seconds to do that. It's going to share that data with app script, and app script is going to populate the sheet. So this sheet has contracts, triage, KYC, onboarding. So if it's a contract, it will create an entry here. Each contract can have an entry. It will identify the parties, other criterion that we had specified. The next thing it does is that it gives you a risk level, and it also gives you a recommended action. So something which is at a risk level of 1 is auto approve, something which is at 5 needs a senior counsel review. This is where the AI helps reduce the time. So it's reading the document, it's identifying the risk level, and it's helping the team focus their resources on the contracts depending on the complexity of the risk and the arrangement, the agreement. Once that's done, like I said, it has a trigger, so it will run every 5 minutes. It will keep on checking your inbox, it will keep on categorizing. We need another layer where somebody can go in and just look at the UI and understand how many contracts we have, how many KYC documents were analyzed. So this is where Looker Studio comes in. So Looker Studio is also a free tool. We connect it to our Google Sheet, and this is how you can visualize the data. So this sheet is a contract triage sheet, so it will tell you how many contracts were processed, what were the risk levels, what is the recommended action, and break it down basically for anyone to just come in and look at it and understand what kind of documents we are looking at. Similarly, we have something for KYC onboarding as well. So the same KYC submission, so what kind of risk we are seeing and how many submissions were made. All of this data can be seen here. This completes the workflow. Like I said, this is a zero cost workflow, and it's completely built in the Google ecosystem. So we are using Google Sheets, we are using Gemini, and we are using other things like Looker Studio and App Script to ensure that our process is low budget. And if you want to scale it, you can scale it. You can modify the parameters, you can modify the standard clauses that you want to look at, and basically scale it to however many contracts you expect to process in a particular time frame. That's all for today. Thank you.